So I did not realize I had my actual I didn't have my starting soon screen up. So, anyways, what's up? What's up? Figure we might as well chill for a few minutes until see if people get here. I do have some questions. So like I said, today's the first book club. Talking about Black Sun. Shut the window real quick. Talking about Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, but get in here. Let's see how my Reddit did my post did yesterday on the writing prompt. Okay, 22 upvotes. Oh man, that was not a good one. My most upvoted my highest upvoted post is 50 so far. I think that one must have been like a really good kind of like perfect storm of factors, because it was so if I put a comment on, even if it's like the best story in the world, right? There won't, if it's not a trending enough topic writing prompt, it won't, like, no one will see it. So it's like the, tallest midget type of thing. Like, who cares? But yeah, so I guess that writing prompt didn't do that great because no one else even put a story into the writing prompt. So it's like, all right, well, but yeah, let's make sure my 1,000. For some reason, it's saying, how do I look? All right, do I sound okay? Because for some reason, it's saying it's unstable, and I'd really hate to get going here if it's unstable. I wonder why it says unstable. Thank you. Yeah, it seems like it's all right, but it's just coming up as unstable. I don't know. But yeah, let's give it like a couple minutes just to see if anyone does show up. I tried going live on TikTok too. I was gonna set it up and I was like, fuck it. If you want to watch, I don't care. But it was you have to like set up with like a stream key or something. It was actually way more involved than I was expecting. And so I thought it was just like click a button and you're live. You have to. So apparently, there's like a whole article how to live stream on TikTok from a PC. And so what you have to do is like you click that you're gonna stream, then you have to go into TikTok and then find a stream key. That's just the whole fucking thing. Yeah, I'm not doing all that. They can come hang out with me on Twitch, for all I care. But yeah, so let's let me talk about. Let's us talk about, not just me. We'll talk about Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. So real quick, before we get going, I put the, if you take a look, if you scroll down on Twitch, you'll see the cover. Cover one is my book, Where They Burn Books, They Also Burn People. The other, well, that's what I'm getting ready to tell you, Maestro. If you scroll down and look at my panels, there's the one at the very far right, or should be. Let me see where it shows up for you guys. The one that says Black Sun. It says Book of the Month, Black Sun. That's the one we're gonna chat about today. So I understand most people probably didn't read it. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for stopping by. But I understand if it's okay if you didn't read it. I'm going to explain to you why these questions matter, and then get your thoughts. And so there are some that my favorite. Amen, buddy. A fucking men. But yeah, so we'll take a look at these. So here we go. I think this is the right panel. All right, so I have these couple questions. So the first thing that stood out for me was this is the first book I've ever read, or even the first mainstream book I've even seen about where they used I don't even know what the right word is. Like non male female pronoun. So it wasn't he her. It was she her. I guess that's how you say that. But this is the first major book I've ever seen that did that. Um, so it was very interesting that she made it work. The author made it work. And so at one point there was a so like one of the main characters, um, her security guard was I think the correct word is non-binary. Melissa, if you can correct me on that, or like confirm that that's it's like, I think that it's like you're non-binary, so they have the zer pronouns. So there were two characters that were non-binary. The first was the head security guard, and then the second was the one of the priests that taught the main character about the world that he was going to get revenge about. So, or he was going to exact revenge from. So, but like I really do, I'm almost positive from what I've seen, this is one of the most mainstream book that uses non-binary pronouns. And so that was really interesting because it made it seem like it was way more normalized back in the day. And so we almost seem backwards in that regard, whereas they were like almost like ahead of us. And so I thought that was a weird, pretty cool juxtaposition how they did that. And there was a couple quotes. Actually, hold on, I have the book. I have a copy of it. Where the hell did I put it? I literally had it out just for this, and now I can't even find it. So this is it. But I meant to highlight the passage I wanted to read. But there was one where the priest shows up to teach the other non-binary person. They show up to teach the main character about the priest and everything, and so he straight up asks, "What are you, man or woman?" And then the non-binary person, they said, I don't fit into either category. Your backwoods city or town doesn't understand. So he had traveled, and so it was far away from where the main city was. So so he said like your backwoods town wouldn't understand. There's not just two genders. And so I thought that was like, again, this kind of like far past pre-Columbian society is farther ahead than we are now for the most part in terms of gender identity. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, that's so. Again, if you didn't read it, that's fine. That's why I included that question and wanted to talk about that question because again, it was like the first time I ever saw that in a book like that. So and it was a little bit not off-putting. That's the wrong word. It was a little bit unsettling the first time I saw, like, the first time you see it, you're just like, what the fuck? Like, that makes no, like, what? But the fact that it was explained later in the book and very like clear, like the main character was like, what are you, a man or a woman? And that was very helpful because it seemed like it kind of explained it to everyone, even if you're not kind of in this super woke culture. So yeah, did you guys have any questions about that? I'm just gonna keep talking. If you want to throw anything in the chat, knock yourself out. So yeah, so the second thing I was interested in is which of the three mentors would you prefer? So the main character, kind of brief synopsis, the main character is designed to be a god inside of a human vessel, and he has to have three mentors. Over the course of the story, he has three separate people teach him for years at a time different aspects, different traits that will help him exact revenge from the priests that did something in the past. They did something. It's not even a big spoiler. It's just really they murdered a bunch of his clansmen, and so then he's like the vessel for the god that's going to exact revenge. Okay. So part of that training before he exacts revenge is he has the 3 mentors that go to his mountain house, whatever. And so the first is a woodcutter. I call him a woodcutter, but really, like, I just wrote that. But it's like he's a woodworker. He's like good at carving, at kind of creating figurines or whatever. And his job was to teach the blind main character, Serapio, how to use his hands, how to and how to control how to deal with pain. So at the end of his lessons, Serapio actually had made a gigantic chest. I think for the way they describe it is a chest to keep clothes and stuff. And on the top of that chest, made a 2-scale map of the area where they're living, where the story takes place. And so the story takes place what sounds to me like the edge of Mexico on the Gulf Coast. So kind of that arc, what you would imagine, like almost like not it's okay if you know what a Merida is, it's on the Yucatan Peninsula, and so it's like that kind of down and then up is where it sounds to me like this whole story takes place. But so the strict woodcutter and the spear maiden, at the war college, there are women that fight with spears made of bone, and she was actually disgraced because I forget why the mentor was disgraced. But anyways, she taught him how to fight, and so that was the big thing, and so made him super tough and super hard to kill. And then the last one, the priest, that's the one that is neither male nor female, and they explain it. And the priest tells Serapio, the main character, all about the priesthood. So this is an ex-priest. He got kind of actually, you know what it was? Okay, so backstory real quick. In the night, it's called the Night of Knives, is when his clansmen got killed. Okay, the priest didn't want to kill anyone, and so the priest helped the main character's mother escape. And so that's where the priest comes into play. So he was a priest, or they were a priest. I'm sorry, non-binary. They were a priest, but they kind of renounced the religion after the Night of Knives, and so that's when the priest comes and tells Serapio, the main character, about what he's going to do, about the plan, about how it's going to happen. And so at the it's called Black Sun because on the solstice, Serapio shows up, slaughters the entire priesthood, and plunges Tova, the main city, into a perpetual eclipse. So it's dark the entire time. So yeah, of the 3 mentors, the strict woodworker, I'll say the woodworker because woodcutter just sounds like a lumberjack. The spear maiden or the priest, I think I would take the spear maiden. So it's like a special woman's only style of fighting, and they have a special women only weapon. So it sounds very interesting, and it sounds like especially when she describes the fighting style, it sounds very fluid, which is very nice. I like that. Women and women first, women and women only. Fucking men. 3, what did you think of the different timelines? Is there one you would have preferred more of? Okay, so the way that the book was written, it kind of jumps around. So it jumps kind of closest to the solstice, and then and so it'll say something to the effect of 10 days before the solstice, and then it'll jump back 10 years before the solstice, and then the morning of the solstice, and then 3 days before the solstice. So it jumps around a lot. And it was at first I was actually, you know what? I was never really that confused because it was always very clear that it was a different time. And one thing that was good that she did, it was always a different character talking about in the different time. So it was never this like, oh wait, who's this and where? It's much more like, oh, this is that person and they're at this time. and this is this person, and they're at this time. So it actually worked out really well. Did the first book do enough to interest you in the sequel? For me, it definitely did. This is the second time I've read this book. Tom, what's going on, buddy? Happy Friday. This is the second time I've read this book, and so the first time I devoured it, I got this tattoo because of it. It's a crow tattoo. I don't know if you guys can see that. Chat, my book is much better than all this. Buddy, I'd like to say the same thing. I would like to say the same thing, but I'm not gonna go there. Some may say. I've heard it said once. I don't know who said it, but yeah. So this is actually the second time I read this book, Black Sun, and I literally dove right into the sequel the same day. So I didn't even have a break. I just read Black Sun, then I went straight on to Fevered Star. Tom, did you get some work done on your book today? Oh yeah, didn't you have your your coaching session? How'd that go? It definitely interested me enough in the sequel. I don't know if I'll get another tattoo about this book or this universe, but I'm already reading the sequel as right now. Like, the quarter. What is the process you use in crafting your books? Zebra, like my personally, or are you talking to Tom? In my books, I outline for like I outline to death, and then I just crank out the words regularly. Like so for example, it'll take me almost like a month to do the whole outline and make sure all the pieces fit together and the characters work well and the symbols and the stories and the locations and the conflicts. All that has to work before I even start, and then I try and knock out 2,000 words a day, 4 to 5 days a week until it's done. It usually takes about 6 weeks, a month, 6 weeks. So yeah. Did the first book do enough to interest you in the sequel? Oh yeah, like definitely reading that again. Or I'm definitely reading the sequel right now, and I'll read the third if that comes out. Tom, it went well. We're just editing it together. Oh, that's good. How many pages do you get through at a time, Tom? Because I figure it's like an hour session, and then you're what is that? I mean, I could probably get through maybe 2 or 3 chapters. I don't know, maybe like 6,000 words. What do you normally use for inspiration? So for myself, dude, Zebra, I literally have I have ideas all day long. You should see my notes. I have notes in my phone. I have notes on my computer. I have notes on this computer. I have like I talk to my brother and I'm like, dude, what about this? And what if this could happen? And like, what do you think about that? Like it's a lot. Maybe like 3 or 4 chapters. Yeah, exactly. So that makes sense. 500 quid. Okay, Tom, I do have a question for you about this. I saw a clip. Someone's talking about Harry Maguire and Chris Smalling, central defenders for Manchester United. And one guy was saying how they spent a lot of quid. Like he was like, spent like blah, 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 300,000 quid or something like that. Okay, what is a quid? Is that like your dollar? Is that a dollar effectively? That's my question, Tom. That's my question. But Zebra, I'm always reading. Like I always have books. Like I'm actually a little slow this year. I'm looking oh, it's pound. Got you. I'm actually a little slow this year on my book consumption. But since I read so much, I have like 4 or 5 books going at every time. And so that's what I usually have a good bit of inspiration from that. Let's see. Multiple types of magic. Oh, this was interesting. So in Black Sun, there's 3. Well, I mean, they've hinted at 4 types of magic, but there's only 3 described. There was water magic, and the woman turned into a mermaid when she was under duress, which was actually fucking awesome, and that was really cool. There's blood magic, which they associate with the earth, and that is in what they call the southern cities, which would be where the main character Serapio is from. And then shadow magic, which is Serapio's Serapio's guy, or Serapio's type of magic that he uses, and that was what they call the carrion crow, one of the four clans in the main city. Um, do you prefer singular novels or trilogies? Oh, that okay. It's funny you asked that. So for me personally, it's singular novels. And chat, please feel free to weigh in on any of these questions. Any of the questions I'm here, any of these questions that Zebra's asking. For me personally, it's singular novels. I will read trilogies and series because I mean, there's plenty that are really good and that get me hooked. But I almost can't take too much time in one universe. So, for example, Hyperion. I don't know if you've heard of Hyperion Cantos, but it's this famous book from like 1985. I think it won the Hugo or the Nebula. It's like this very, very famous science fiction book. Okay. I did not know that it was the first of two. I shit you not. They got in the end of Hyperion, they walked into some cave that they were going to the whole time to go fight somebody. But I never it just ended. That was it because it was like the second book. And so, dude, I got so mad. I didn't finish it for like a year and a half because I was furious. So I like to have a nice finished story, and then if I like the world, I'll read it again. I'll continue. If it's a writer I love, I prefer a series. If I'm not connecting entirely but still like the writing, more of a singular novel. That makes sense. Especially for some of the like for heavier novels too. Like if you have like a noir novel or I'm trying to think of like other types of books that are good for like a one-off. Like different genres. Like I feel like fantasy and science fiction, you can really get lost in a series. Magical. Which? Okay, so back to the question of water magic, blood magic, and shadow magic. Not to mention sun magic. We're not going to go there yet. Which of the three that were talked about in this book sound most interesting to you? So I actually wrote another book coming out soon. It's going to be about like the in the book the indigenous magic, but it's the first in the indigenous magic series. Sorry, I'm like trying to like get my words straight because I just got the book cover and I was like trying to decide if I should show you guys or not. I'll show you eventually. But okay, so in the book that's coming out June 1st, the main character actually has a shadow warrior and he can control in the shadow realm. So in terms of the types of magic discussed, I think that shadow magic for me, for sure. Professor, I have a doctor's note. Parapo, is that what you read? Is that what you thought the book of the month was? Did you think it was your doctor's note? Nope, it wasn't. It was an actual full-blown book. But if you scroll down, Parapo, we were talking about this earlier. Scroll down and look at the panels. I have Where They Burn Books, They Also Burn People, and the book of the month in there. So it's nice. Hopefully it's pretty prominent. Nah, I'm late. I just want participation credit. All right, bet. Nah, I figure you'd be here. Don't worry. While you write, do you prefer to edit as you go or wait and edit later? Oh, that's a good question. For me personally, it's very much I will edit. Sorry. I'll write 4 or 5 days in a row, and then I'll edit that week's stuff. And so what that does is I'll go over it, read it, kind of massage it, and then it will make sure. So it's almost like editing for logic purposes, if that makes sense. That way, when I go into the next week, when I start on Monday or whatever it is, when I go into the next section of writing, the next chunk of writing days, I already have what's going on in my head, and I am not kind of like making it up as I go. Because I do find that if you write for me, if I write continuously and just keep cranking out words and pages, eventually there's like logic things that I'll forget about. So I'll be like, fuck, I didn't, I completely forgot that this happens, or I completely forgot that that happens, or I already said that he doesn't do this, excuse me, and now I'm acting like he doesn't do, or he does do this. And so things get a little hairy for me. If I don't read at least read what I wrote that week. So yeah, chugging right along here. What did you think of the magical beasts? Which would you want as a pet? Okay, so this was really interesting. This almost feels like this is what made it into this kind of really expansive fantasy story. So the main city has 4 clans, and each clan is represented by a magical beast, and they call them not riders. Yeah, I think it's riders. I want to say beastmasters. But so the magical beasts are a water strider. So think literally like like almost like the spider looking things on the creek. That was one of the things. I was like, holy shit, I couldn't believe that. I was like, that's pretty cool. But it was a big water strider. Like apparently it's the size of a boat, and then with big long legs. And then there's winged serpent, which is from what I read and understood was like a dragon. Well, like you would expect a dragon. It has it's a snake, and it flies through the air. It has wings, and then she talked about it has I don't know if it's antenna, but like whiskers, like a catfish. Carrion Crow, that one was the main character was from the Carrion Crow clan, and in the past, off screen before the book started, there was what's called the Night of Knives, and that is when the priests and the priesthood slaughtered a bunch of Carrion Crow, and that is what kicked off this whole revenge cycle. And then Golden Eagle is what you would think of. Okay, if you read Game of Thrones, Golden Eagle is like the Lannisters. They're like just the fucking, they're suck ups to the king and this, that, and the other. So as I kind of liked the Water Strider character. It was very interesting seeing the Water Striders and hearing about their and so in each of their areas where they live, works together. Like so, for example, in Water Strider's district, there's like water everywhere. And then in Golden Eagle's district, they talk about like everything's like really like expansive vertically. And so and then Carrion Crow's district, it's kind of morose throughout. And so this kind of these tropes carry through all the different clans. I would take Carrion Crow. Like it's just get to wear all black all the time. Like that just hanging out, and you get like a bunch of fucking crows as your buddies. Zebra, do you find any tropes to be more difficult to write about than others? Yes, I do, actually. And let me tell you, and I have a very, very clear answer for this. I have a very hard time writing emotions. Like it does not, they just don't they don't click for me. And even if I write like even just explaining on a like explaining about the simplest emotions will even like a paragraph starts to feel like I've gone too much. Like any descriptions of emotions, just it's like immediately shuts me down and I can't write anymore. So like it's not that I don't like them. I can enjoy a good, love story or a love arc. There was a love arc in Black Sun that was very interesting, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. But for me, writing about that as a writer, like it's just like it's like a mental block. So all my stories are very much like, that's why I like the Marvel kind of thing, or especially like Shang-Chi, because him and Simu Liu and Aquafina's character are like buddies, but they don't like there's never like this implied like, oh, they're dating or married. It's like, nah, it's just like they're just non-romantic friends and they just happen to be a boy and a girl. And so like the love arcs, I really struggle with the love arcs. The cliff houses in Tova reminded me so much of the cliff houses of Bandelier. Cliff houses of Bandelier, hold on, Lucero, what's that? I'm gonna look that up real quick. Is that from another book? Oh, Los, like here, I'm gonna pull that up for the chat. I'll show everyone what they're talking. The cliff dwellings of Bandelier. Here, let's get this. Let's get this in here. National not yeah. The national monument where indigenous people lived in New Mexico. I didn't know that's so. I've heard of the cliff dwellings, Lucero, but I didn't know that's what they were called, like the Bandelier or anything. Yes, exactly. I could definitely see this, especially in the mall. Like, do you remember when they were talking about? There was one part when so in the book, there's the main one of the main characters, not the main character, one of the main characters goes and visits her brother in his gambling den, and so it almost like reminds me of something just like this because she has to go climb up. And then she has to climb down into it from the top. And so let me see if I can find one because it was described as like a round room on the outside. And but like it just they described these ladders and everything. Lucero, that's good. I like that a lot. Yeah. That's I didn't come to that conclusion. Zebra, do you find silence or some form of background noise to be best when you're outlining and or writing? Oh, for me, if it's completely silent, I can do silent. But I started writing at a Starbucks, and so I am very much used to a lot going on. And so when there's a lot going on, I feel like that makes me focus in. Whereas if it's complete, like if I was going to write in a library, I would go crazy because it's just like the smallest thing would just, and I'd get caught. And so if I was going to write in a library, I would definitely wear my AirPods. But even so, even if you guys don't exactly know or didn't get to the parts where they talk about the magical beast, what sounds more interesting to you? Chat, what do you think? Would you rather be a water strider, a winged serpent, carrion crow, or golden eagle? Even just reading about what the words are, like just hearing about what the animals are. Do any of those sound more interesting? And then also think about the relationship to Harry Potter. Like it's like Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, and Slytherin. Water Strider, okay. Interesting. But like I mean I wouldn't be surprised if she literally just saw like the four Harry Potter houses and was like, you know what? I'm gonna make four clans. And these four clans are gonna be this is what's gonna be. Carrying Crow, I'm a Crow man myself. Lucero and Parappa. Yeah, dude. And the only thing was Lucero. The only thing I would wonder about that is did the eagles and did the other animals also get their create those bonds, those lifelong bonds with the riders? Or we just didn't hear about it. You know, that's the only thing I'd want to know. But I'm a carrying crow all the way. As a child of the desert and mountains, prefer that clan. The crows? Yeah, winged serpent. I just, and especially even so that was one thing I was found interesting because in this book and I'm reading the sequel right now and you don't really hear much about winged serpent. It's just not it's not really a thing, and so it's almost like Hufflepuff and Harry Potter. Like It wasn't Cedric Diggory was the only thing about Hufflepuff that was ever. I'm pretty sure. I'm not even positive, but it's like other than that, I don't know anything about Hufflepuff. Yeah, he's Hufflepuff, but and now he's Batman. So how crazy is that? It shows you don't give up on your dreams, kids. Don't give up on your dreams. You can go from being a Hufflepuff to Batman. Even you. Let's see here. Oh, how about the first chapter? Dude, that first chapter, I remember actually because okay, like I said, this was the second time I read this book. The first time I read this book, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "The cover's awesome, pre-Columbian." I was like, "I'm from El Salvador. My grandmother's Mayan. Like, that's cool. I can definitely get down with fantasy story about about like a pre-Columbian society. It sounds dope." And then I read the first chapter. Okay, since this is the book discussion, we're gonna assume you all read it. So sorry about spoilers if you haven't read it and you want to read it, and I've kind of whet your appetite. Too bad. Okay, the first chapter, he's like a 12-year-old Serapio, the main character, and he's pretty much his mother makes him drink this vaguely narcotic. It's almost like morphine. And so and then she effectively tattoos him all over, but like from what I read it, these specific tattoos are much more like scar tattoos instead of colored tattoos. So think like Nightcrawler, okay? You know how Nightcrawler, the X-Men, has all the symbols of what is it, the runes of the Archangel Gabriel or something? Okay, that's what I imagine his Carrion Crow, the Serapio's tattoos look like. So drinks this morphine. She carves all over him, his neck, his chest, his back, like all over. And then she sews his fucking eyes shut. And so he's sitting there, 12 years old, kind of drunk. His eyes are sewn shut. Oh, no. After she makes him stare into an eclipse. And so he, like, blinded by the eclipse. And then he stares. His eyes are sewn shut. And then as the dad's beating down the door because he's worried about the wife or his wife harming their child, the mother runs out the room and jumps off the edge of a cliff. And then that's the end of the first chapter. And I just like literally, I remember reading it and I was just like sitting there, like the fork like right in front of my mouth, and I was just like breathing heavy, like my shoulders rising. I was like, what the fuck is this? It was a wild first chapter. Like that hooked me so well. I was in. It's even worse when it's all from his perspective. Yeah, dude, exactly. And he's like super trusting, and he's like just very believing and very pure. And so I actually wonder if the author kind of has this kind of because you're used to seeing like this kind of like this purity trope on young girls, and so it's like, oh, he has this purity trope with him, and exactly, he's like a sweet boy, and then remember later he doesn't sleep with Giala, and so you're like, oh wow, it's like you think it's almost like this like a suspended adolescence. And now I'm not not eunuch necessarily, but like that kind of like it was a line, and then it never, and so he has this kind of purity that even though he's like this like fucking super mass murderer, it's also like, damn dude, like you went through a lot. It was a very very good first chapter. I'm telling you, that shit hooked me right away. Let's see, Zebra, is there a specific page or word count length you prefer your novels? Yes. So each chapter I like to make it right around 2,000 words, and each book I shoot for 60,000 words. I've done longer. So, for example, Where They Burn Books, They Also Burn People is the combination of two books. And if you guys want to see what I'm talking about, scroll down and you'll see the big orange with the skull. That's Where They Burn Books, They Also Burn People. That's two books combined with alternating chapters. That combined word count is 145,000 words. And so I think it was like, I think it ended up being a 6580, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but most of the time I shoot for about 60,000, and anything other than that, it's gravy. Like it's just that's like a good spot for me, because that's for me, like especially for how short my chapters are. If I can kind of cruise through there and get there pretty quickly. So in terms of the six, I can keep the pace high. Let's put it that way. Sorry, like that didn't really make sense. I can keep the pace really high, so I can write my 2,000 words per chapter, and then I can keep like a really intense, like then this happened, then this, and 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 then what, and then this, and then this, and this, and so that works for me. Let's see here. 8. Does this remind you of any other books that you've read? Well, I've already said a couple times the Harry Potter comparisons. I did think with the 4 different clans of Tova, that did very much reminded me of the 4 different houses of Hogwarts. Hogwarts. Uh, they were less fleshed out though. So for example, like I don't really know what a water strider person is like. I don't really know what a golden eagle person. Whereas like in your head, like you have like kind of have in your head like, oh, a Hufflepuff, oh, a Ravenclaw. But on the other hand, now that I think about it, one of the uncles in the story, he was a like he was carrying Crow on his one of the grandparents' side, and then he ended up marrying into Water Strider. So I guess without the Sorting Hat, you can't have such clear lines in terms of personalities, because people are going to move, people are going to fall in love, people are going to mingle, and so even if you know what they're going to, even if they would maybe fit in with a different clan, it sounds like I think it's matrilineal, if I was reading that correctly. But what was the hardest scene for you to write? For me to write? Oh gosh. Uh, okay, this is a little bit not uncomfortable. Um, divulges a little more information than I normally would like to. Let's put it that way. So the hardest scene for me to write was there is a scene um in the Hysteria of Bodilise, one of the earlier scenes, and in it, um, the main character talks about being pretty much dealing with OCD, and he has to burn. He gets burned, and then he has to burn himself on the other hand, the same level of pain as the first hand, and he has to match them. And that was like I had to deal with that when I was a kid, a lot. So that was tough for me to write, um, because it just felt a little. It's like, ooh man, I'm really bleeding on this page today. I was like, okay, well I guess fuck it. I mean, what are you gonna do? It's who you are. So let's see. What do you do for writer's block? I just keep writing. So remember, I don't know if you were here. I mean, I figure you're here, Zebra. You're always chilling with me. But when I learned how to write in the first place, it was by setting a timer and not letting my pen stop moving from a piece of paper. And so even if I didn't have anything to say, it would be like, I don't have anything to say. Where am I going? What is the point of this? You suck. You were terrible. Blah, 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 blah. And so I got into the habit of just cranking out words. And so I'm big on you can't edit it if it doesn't exist. So, and it's pretty easy when you just crank out words, you can always get a reasonable amount of content. So even maybe even out of, I don't know, pages of writing on a writer's block day, you get one sentence. Okay, that's still one sentence more than you had the day before. So like, what's the problem? Like, I don't necessarily I believe in it. I believe that there's harder days. Um, but I look at writing like a very much a binary. Did I sit down and did I write? Yes. Okay. That's good. If I didn't write, then I didn't write. But like the fact that I can't even get a sentence out, like that seems kind of ridiculous. Part of the book is most fun to write. Ooh. What part of the book? A lot of times it's the very first couple pages. Like when you, because it'll sit for so long, and I've waited for so long. I think I've used this example before with Tom. I feel like almost like a dog being kept on a leash. Like it's like I've been doing this outline, I've been studying, I've been working, I've been crafting, and then finally it's time to write it, and then that's a good time because you're just like, oh man. Um, Yeah, does this remind you of any other books that you've read? Oh, I would also say it reminded me of Rivendell. Not all of Lord of the Rings, but specifically Rivendell. The Water Strider area did. What real world places did the story locations remind you of? Um, that one. Okay, so I'm almost positive that this kind of okay. So there's a map in the beginning of the book. Let me see if I can open it and find this. Because I mean, I might imagine it's here. Oh, okay. Yes, here it is. And so the dark areas is the water. Okay, so this is an island right here. That's an island. And so I think it's like almost like a condensed version of like the Mexico's Gulf Coast. So if you think like pretend this is the top of the Yucatan Peninsula right here. So like this would be Merida, and then if you come and down, and then this would almost be um like a Houston area. Actually, I think that'd be almost here. But and then with if and back in the day before they had like modern navigation tools, it was very much they didn't know the scale. So even if you feel like you're going out, if you don't know the scale of how like the angle, I could easily see how they think it's more condensed or even longer. But I could definitely see that. So I think that that's where they kind of that Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico's Gulf Coast, um, was what definitely reminded me of that. Zebra, do you prefer to develop the plot or characters first? Plot first. I figure out where I'm going. Well, I figure out where one character goes, and then I get that plot down, and then I crank out the different characters. Let's see. Last question. Character you'd want to hang out with. Um, for me, I would like to say I want to say Serapio. I do. The all black, the fucking sick tats, the hooded badassness with the the blindfold on. That shit is so cool. But I still think I'd take Giala, the mermaid character. She's like a sailor mermaid. She's like just seems like such a badass. And I don't even drink, so it's not even okay in the book. So backstory, guys. In the book, Giala drinks a lot, like a lot. It gets her into trouble and everything. I don't drink, so it's not even like I want to go and get fucked up with her. It just seems like she just like has the most interesting stories, and just she seemed like the most interesting kind of person to get a meal with. So yeah. So what about you guys? Anyone else read the book? Do they have a favorite character they want to hang out with? Dang, I talked a lot more than I thought I was going to. I was like, okay, I have a couple questions. I can talk for a little bit, but yeah, this was solid. So I think for the next book club, I'll definitely try and have I'll have a little bit more awareness about it. I think I dropped the ball a little bit in assuming how much I was letting people know. I assumed I was getting the word out there well, but even so, my brother is extremely supportive of me. I talk to him every day on the phone, FaceTime, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting ready for the book club. He's like, the book club today? When did you do the book club? And I was like, what the fuck do you mean when I do the book club? I was like, started last month. And he was like, um, oh well, I didn't know about the book club, and I was like, shit. And so I was like, okay, well, the book club, it's here, XYZ, we're meeting. Um, the next book club book, okay. So I was going to make it, I'll be honest with you, I was going to make it a book called Fevered Star, which is the sequel to this. But instead, I'm actually going to make it, I'm going to show you right now, stay right here. It's going to be The House of Broken Angels by Luis Alberto Urrea. And so real quick, I'll read the synopsis real quick. Beloved patriarch Miguel Angel de la Cruz, affectionately called Big Angel, has summoned his entire clan for one last legendary birthday bash. As the party approaches, his nearly 100-year-old mother dies, transforming the weekend into a farewell doubleheader. Among the guests is Big Angel's half-brother, known as Little Angel, who must reckon with his identity as part gringo and with the differences between his siblings' lives and his own. Across 2 bittersweet but riotous days in their San Diego neighborhood, 4 generations celebrate Big Angel and his mother, recounting the many myths that have passed into family lore, the acts both ordinary and heroic that brought the De La Cruzes to this fraught and sublime country they have come to call home. The House of Broken Angels is full of warmth and humor, authentic at every turn, a novel that cements Luis Alberto Urrea's reputation as a storyteller of the first rank. So House of Broken Angels. I'll Parappa, thank you for the inspiration. I'll put the Twitch panel below. And I will try and get the word out there so that way we can have a couple more people hang out with us. Yeah, I think this worked well though, because the only thing was most other book clubs, it's like it gets a little bit cacophonous when a lot of people are trying to talk or like trying to signal for the host to talk on Zoom. And so I kind of like this format because if we could get the chat popping and like lots of people in chat, then it's easier to just and everyone can read it along instead of everyone having to listen. I think most people read way faster than they talk. I know I do. So, yes, you can borrow it. So next book club book, House of Broken Angels. All right, this last one, first book club is in the books. See what I did there? Dang! I know I do. What was I gonna say? Now I want to go to this thing that Lucero was talking about with the cliff houses. This shit looks wild.